First of all, I know what you're thinking.
I am very happy to be here. Amen. Yes, sir.
And I'm glad you came. I know what's stopping you. Maybe you don't know, but I know. I know what's stopping you from doing that project that you wanted to do, starting that business, that handyman business, or whatever other thing you wanted to get started. I know what it is. Around here, we call it the intimidation factor. There's a whole lot of things that go into it, but we're gonna get you over the hump. Let's go. Now, part one, and maybe even the largest part of the intimidation factor for a lot of people, is dealing with what other people got to say. The naysayers, the haters, or as one of my daughter's kindergarten teachers used to call it, the bucket dippers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that one. That one's dope. Man, these people, the people that are coming after your dream, you understand what I'm saying? Like, where you got an idea and they got a problem. You got a solution, they got a problem. There's always an issue. And for some reason, you just keep thinking about what they're gonna say. It'd be people you went to school with or something that you're scared to get online and say something because what somebody that you ain't talked to in 20 years got to say about it. Now, personally, I don't understand because I was born with the innate ability to just not care about what people think about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been something in me since I was a kid. I used to have the old saying where peer pressure don't move me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can say what you want. I'm gonna move when I want to. I'm gonna do stuff when I want to. If I got a job that I don't like, but I need this money and I need to keep this job for X amount of time before I get out of here, then that's what I'm gonna do. I don't care. You could be mean to me and think you're doing something. It don't mean nothing to me. It means absolutely nothing, right? So when I get on here, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Do you have a plan to start a business? You have a plan to chase your dream, whatever that thing is. And you just got a bunch of people like, just doing this. Just doing this, a whole bunch of talking. I like to call them XJ900s. You got a bunch of XJ900s making comments and just saying stuff, you know what I mean? So first, and this is why XJ900s is the term I use from childhood. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, when I was a little kid running around, mothers was no joke about the difference between your school shoes and your play shoes. It wasn't no joke. Like, and it wasn't like we had like, everybody was wearing J's, Jordans hadn't even come out. It just didn't matter. Whatever your shoes were for school, you didn't wear them to go outside and run around and play. So my mom was notorious. She was gonna buy the cheapest shoes she could find because you just had to, it didn't have to do anything. They had to get you outside and not get your feet scuffed up by running around without no shoes on. So she got some generic joints. So we would go to Kmart, right? Or some people would go to Payless or whatever. And I remember I was like 8 years old. She got us some XJ900s. That was the brand name. They were XJ900s. And I remember the brand name so well because like I even had one of my friends across the street made up a song about them. So we'd come outside, it'd be like XJ900s, and it would garner laughs from other kids. And it was like, we'd eventually move on, do something else. But that's just, you got roasted back in the day. It was the equivalent to like the what are those from a few years back. So for me, XJ900 represented a sneaker. Like, it basically could have just said sneaker across the side and it would have been the equivalent of that. That's how I look at people that make comments that don't help anybody or do anything, and they just talking, right? They just running their mouth. They XJ900s, man. They just generic people. They're not even real people, as far as I'm concerned. Why are you listening to these people? Somebody back from when I was in high school or 20, however many years ago, that got something to say about what? If you 500 pounds and you get out there to try to go start running and somebody looking out the window from their couch, looking at you actually doing something, they like, oh, look at that dude. Who cares about that person? They don't matter. They're a non-factor. They're an XJ900. So that's the first thing about this intimidation factor is don't let other people intimidate you out of doing the things that you want to do. You only got one life, man. You only got one life. We can all run around in circles. I've had people, it's funny because I have people, I've had videos, I do a video on drywall from start to finish, show you every bit of the process, show you my end result close up. And I still have people get in there like, oh, you have no idea what you're doing. Dude, that's the XJ900. I mean, how could they possibly matter to me? How could they possibly matter? You know what I mean? It's just like that. Like, I mean, think about it. These people don't care if you have a meal today. They don't care if you go make it home safe to your family. They don't care if you wake up tomorrow. They don't care. So why on earth do you care about what they think about the direction of your life? Like I told you, it's different with somebody who means well, who maybe knows you and loves you and cares about you. And even then, if they don't know nothing about what you're doing and they have no experience in it, it don't really matter how they feel about you. You know what I mean? If I'm in business and I got another guy that's in business that's telling me, dude, and they're successful and they're telling me, hey, you might want to check this part over here, tweak that a little bit, because I might need to listen to that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little different than somebody just coming here and lie, they gonna work, man. They look at the economy. That's a terrible idea. You know how many home improvement businesses there are here? You know how many people are making shirts? You know how many people are doing this already? The market's saturated. Nobody has any money and never be able to. Oh man, just enough of the XJ900s. Don't let them get in your head, man. You put your work in and in due time, you'll get wherever you want to get. So until you get that mind frame, you're always gonna be stuck, because that gotta be the first people you gotta get over. Just make it like they just like the wind. It's like birds chirping, man, you don't even hear it no more, right? That's how you need to have it. We ain't worried about what the XJ900's got to say. That's the first thing we're gonna do. When you think about it, understanding the intimidation factor, a lot of it's not your fault. I mean, the reality is that it's just not your fault. And the reason why is that you've been programmed to be scared to make a move. You just have. You've been programmed away from everything that says think for yourself. Whenever I refer to the education system, it's a system, not necessarily the educators. There's a lot of wonderful educators out there. I happen to be married to one of them. But there's a lot of wonderful educators, but what the system does a lot of times is they strip the creativity out of everything from day one. The creativity and the idea of figuring things out. That's why you'll hear me, the art of figuring things out for me is a theme. It's a theme, man. It's something that you have to get into your brain. And a lot of times it's cool. You don't ever have to figure out anything. Even the writing. I was talking to my wife about why is it in school? Like when I was in school, I used to love reading. I read all the time. I read articles. I read all kind of books and comic books and different styles of writing and everything. And I used to love reading. But when I go to write in school, it was all formatted. It was all, man, it has to be this APA format. It has to be this certain amount of sentences. It has to be all this structure to it, all this citing, all that. They took the enjoyment out of the reading and the writing and everything and turned it into the biggest chore possible. And I couldn't stand writing. And they did that with the writing. They did it with they made a lot of the math more mechanical. Just eat these formulas. As long as you can eat formulas, you're good. Until I got to like calculus and some of these higher level classes, where I learned that you don't even need the formulas if you can understand how to derive them. So a lot of all the trades were taken out of the schools. I luckily went to a school that's built around trades, even though people still didn't like the idea of it, but it was built around learning skills that you could apply whether you went to college or not. And which is one of the reasons why I learned so much about electrical is that I went to this kind of college, this kind of high school, which at the time I graduated high school, it didn't really serve me at the time. I didn't really use it much. Come now, it's a blessing that I learned all that electronics back then, because now when I started doing stuff like appliance repair, back in the day, I had so many schematics working on computers and stuff like that and circuit boards. Dude, I can read a schematic like it ain't nothing. So now doing appliance repair. You put a schematic in front of me. I never had to see it before. Man, I could fix anything, right? But if I didn't have that experience, which most people don't, then the idea of figuring things out becomes something you can't fathom. And that's not your fault. I understand the idea of going to somebody's house, them looking at you like they need a solution from you, and you having the ability to go figure out what the problem is, give them a solution, and also fix the problem. And when you leave, everything is working fine. That's huge, that's intimidating. but we're gonna have to get you past it, right? Another thing that's intimidating, could be intimidating, is like, what do I know well enough to do? Like, what job should I start with? Well, I mean, I always say start with the low-hanging fruit, especially if you don't have experience doing a lot of things and doing a lot of things on your own. You're worried about messing something up in somebody's house or whatever, then I get it. You know, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. There are flooring, for example, and is something where a lot of people can, like the type of floors that are being installed today, a lot of people can do those. You know, maybe the biggest issue is like doorways and things of that nature where you're gonna you gotta learn it. You gotta learn how to square up a room. I mean, there's things you're gonna have to learn, right? But start off with the low-hanging fruit. One thing I always say, as far as the handyman business goes, a good one is always furniture assembly. It's always a good one. It can get technical. There are aspects of it where you got to start figuring things out and how some things go together. Somebody might order something from way out of your country, and it comes and the directions are crazy and they use different kinds of parts, and it'll get you adjusted to thinking a little bit, and then you can grow from there. You know, like I said, maybe do some flooring, do some painting, and I'm not saying that it's all easy. There's a lot of aspects to something like painting or whatever, but anybody can paint a bedroom. I'm sorry. It's just the reality of it is anybody can paint a bedroom. But how does your bedroom look? I remember years ago, I would paint, and I remember saying to my wife, this had to be 15 years ago, at our old house. We paint, and I'm like, it's crazy how I can paint, but then when I see a professional paint, it just looks different. You know what I mean? It's just something about it looks different. And the walls are smoother, the lines are sharper. It's just how they do it. Well, you can do that on your own. You can study it. You can figure out how did they get those walls. That's what I did. You know, how did they get those walls like evenly painted like that? You know, those lines around the room so sharp. I'm up here with little pieces of tape taking forever. So you got it though, man. There are a lot of different things that you can do. Leaving your job is scary, man. It's intimidating. This is one reason I say you don't have to just leave. You don't have to just quit your job just because you started a handyman business or whatever. A lot of times the best way to do it is to start it part-time. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about that factor of intimidation. What that also allows you to do is allows you to adjust. Like I said, when you're doing a lot of these jobs, especially when you're working inside of other people's houses, that's an intimidating thing. It's intimidating, you know, because you're thinking, especially if you go on a lot of the forums and everything, you're thinking everybody's just out to get you, out to get the handyman or the service worker that's working inside of their house. And from my experience, that couldn't be anything further from the truth. There are people who are just not good customers in general, but the vast majority of people I've dealt with have been great. Yeah, you're gonna have some rough days, man. You're gonna have some times where, you know, man, you're gonna think about throwing in the towel, but where don't you have that? You ain't never had a job where you felt like quitting every day? Like, and you ain't have no other option but to be there? At least when you get out here and start doing something like this might be a customer that's hard to deal with, but they'll be out of your life real shortly. You know what I mean? You'll be able to move on to greener pastures. What else is intimidating? I mean, just the idea of running a business is intimidating because there's just so many other factors involved than just your skill, right? You could be the most skilled person in the world, but if you don't know how to market a business and then go out and get work, it's kind of like realtors, right? Where there's a difference. There's a difference, right? There's somebody who could sell a house. There are those people out there that are waiting by the phone for somebody to call them so that they can have a house to sell. And then there's the other people who go get work. You understand what I'm saying? There are other people that get out here and go find houses to sell. It's just a difference, but that's on you. It doesn't have to be intimidating if you're putting in the work. You got to think about it. Like, you know, I have people telling me that, you know, oh man, you know, starting our own business, man, that's tough, man. You know, there's a lot of them fail and this and that. It's like, I know, but you know, it's crazy. Instead, I hop in the car. Next time you do an experiment on yourself. Hop in the car and just drive down the street and look out the window. And understand that this is all business. Everything you see is either a business is there, or it was built by a business, or something. It's some structure of business did that. I don't care if it's the road that you're driving on, the car that you're hopping into, right? Everything, the floor mats. There are businesses out there that just do floor mats for your car. Why can't you do it? So there's something special about all these other people that somebody can pour the driveway, the driveway that you're backing down, paint lines for the parking lot that you're parked in. Everything you look at was a business, some business was part of making it, right? I'm not even just talking about all the buildings that were built, all the houses that were built, all the people that were put to work building and putting together these houses, all the paperwork that had to go in, that had to have some lawyer or somebody else, some bookkeeper, some accountant, like everything you look at is some business did it. But then all of a sudden, you can't. I ain't trying to hear that, man. And that's how you're gonna have to start looking at this thing where so everybody can do it but you, right? All right, you're gonna have to think about it like the intimidation factor is never gonna go away if you constantly just stay in the state of being intimidated. At some point, you're just gonna have to get out here and start doing something, right? I mean, think of how it's gonna be in the end. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to always think about it from the standpoint of in the beginning. Think about what you want, what your goal is, what you're trying to obtain, what you're trying to achieve. And then you gotta go after it. Because like I said, it's only one, man. You only got one of these lives. That's it. That's it. You don't wanna spend the whole time wishing. You don't want to spend the whole time thinking of what you could do, what you might do. You know, I'm not saying, like I said, jump off the bridge, you know, or I'm not saying like rush into something and get destroyed. I'm saying to get started. How do you expect to obtain all the skills that you want if you just don't do something, right? There are other things that you learn on the way. You'll start to build your skills as you go, but if you never start, you're listening to the XJ900s, how do you expand? How do you expect to ever get anywhere with it? You're just gonna be another one of those souls, man. You know, I hate to say that, you know, when I was working at Amazon in that warehouse, there were so many people that had so many ideas and they had so many dreams, and I would talk to people. I mean, I was performing interviews when I was working there because, of course, I didn't have to be there, right? So I was there because I was just trying to get some extra money. I was still in that old mindset. This is a few years back. But I go in and talk to people that were working there. A lot of them were full-time people there. And all of them had dreams. All of them had ideas. They all had these things. Nobody had a plan to be at Amazon. Nobody I talked to had a plan to move up in the company. Everybody had a plan on something that they wanted to do. But that's all they had was a whole bunch of talk. And until, you know, and because it's so intimidating to actually do something, it's not intimidating to talk about it. But the faster you get out here, the faster you start building up your skills and reaching higher skill levels, things that you never even thought you'd be doing. So come on, man, leave them XJ900s at the door. Let's get it in. Handyman 2.0, man, we going to the next level. So stay safe, be blessed. And remember, if the trades don't work, nothing else does.